The history of the English language. English is widely considered to be the lingua franca of the world. It is the dominant language in international business, science, and technology. Today, we are going to explore the fascinating history of the English language from its ancient roots to its modern day form. Starting with Old English. Anglo-Saxon is a collection of tribes now known as Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands. In the 5th century AD, in a time of great migrations and upheaval, a group of people, including the Angles, Saxons, and the Jutes, made their way to the British Isles. These tribes brought their own dialects that later formed the Old English. They eventually established small kingdoms and started cultivating the land. Their language was heavily influenced by their Germanic roots. It replaced Latin and Celtic language spoken by natives under the Roman rule, therefore making the Old English's complex grammars and vocabulary. In the 8th and 9th centuries, Viking invasions brought Old Norse. Vikings were not just raiders, they were also settlers, traders, and explorers. The language of Norsemen began to interweave with the existing Old English. The following Norse words enter the English lexicon: freckle, leg, skin, want. Middle English, 1150 1500 AD. The Norman conquest altered the course of the English language when William the Conqueror, Duke of Normandy, defeated King Harold in the Battle of Hastings. William the Conqueror brought the Old Norman language. Normans established the language of court, law, administration, and the elites. Thousands of French words enter the English vocabulary, such as court, justice, jury, and sermon. During this time, Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales in the late 14th century helped standardize and promote this form of language. Early modern English. This period has a significant cultural and technological changes. First is the Renaissance period. It focuses on the classical knowledge of ancient Greece and Rome alongside advancements of science, art, and literature. Scholars and intellectuals sought to rediscover and reinterpret ancient texts, leading to an influx of Latin and Greek words into English. The following words are borrowed from ancient Latin and Greek: encyclopedia, drama, philosophy, and theory. Second is the invention of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg in the mid 15th century. It was introduced to England by William Caxton in 1476. It revolutionized the production of books, making it accessible and affordable. It also standardized English spelling and grammar. The Great Vowel Shift was a significant phenomenon in major changes in pronunciation of the English language that involved systematic changes in long vowels. For example, the Middle English pronunciation of bite was closer to beat. Meat was pronounced closer to mate. This change altered the way English words were spoken. William Shakespeare was considered as the greatest writer in the English language. His works exemplify the richness and flexibility of the early modern English. His work includes Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, Hamlet, Merchant of Venice, and many more. During this period, English began to spread beyond England's shore, carried by explorers, traders, and colonists. The early modern English was one of the remarkable growth and transformation. The King James Bible was published in 1611, also had a profound impact on the English language. Its widespread use helped to further standardize English. As the British Empire expanded, English encountered and absorbed the influences from many languages. English evolved into a more standardized and widely accessible language, contemporary English. Today, English is a global lingua franca, spoken by over 1.5 billion people. It evolved with the influences from technology, social media, and digital communications. English became a highly dynamic and adaptive language. The history of the English language exemplifies its adaptability from various influences and its capacity to evolve alongside the changes. English is now used all over the world and is considered the lingua franca. Linguistics. According to Cambridge Dictionary, linguistics is a scientific study of the structure and development of language in general or on particular languages. According to the University of Buffalo, linguistics is the scientific study of language and its focus is the systematic investigation of the properties of particular languages as well as the characteristics of language in general. According to Britannica Dictionary, linguistics is the scientific study of language that focuses on the written texts and in the development of languages through time. It tends to give priority to spoken languages and to the problems of analyzing them as they operate at a given point in time. Branches of linguistics. Phonology is the study of sounds that a person makes while speaking. Next is syntax. Syntax is the formation of the sentence. Morphology deals with the formation of words. Semantics is the study of certain meanings. Pragmatics is the study of using a language. Historical linguistics defines the evolution of languages over a span of time. Applied linguistics is the branch that deals with the problem solving way in language and to provide better real life issues related to the language. Social linguistics it deals with the effects of society and the social life of a person on his language. Computational linguistics is concerned with the perception and study of written and spoken languages in computer science. Psycholinguistics deals with the study of various psychological factors that include how humans use and speak their language. Comparative linguistics defines how a language is similar and different from the others. Stylistics deals with the study and interpretation of your tone. However, it does not limit symbolism, regional accents, dialogue rhymes, sentence structures, and etc. Major theories of language. First is the nativistic theory. It is a biologically based theory which states that language is innate, physiologically determined, and is genetically transmitted. This means that a newborn baby is just pre-wired for language acquisition and a linguistic mechanism is activated by exposure to language. The main theorist associated with the nativist theory is Noam Chomsky. This theory believes that language is universal and unique to only humans, and that unless there are severe mental or physical limitations or severe isolation and deprivation, humans will acquire language. Noam Chomsky developed the idea of the language acquisition device, or LAD. The LAD is a language organ that is hardwired into our brain at birth. Once a child is exposed to language, the LAD activates. Next is the behavioral theory of B.F. Skinner. The behavioral perspective postulates that everything we do is dictated by our environment and that our behavior is a response to external stimuli through operant conditioning, the process through which behavior changes with positive and negative reinforcement. Parents, for example, enforce correct usage of a word in children with positive facial or verbal reactions. They play larger roles in our verbal behavior, which introduces the concept of functions to words as well as meanings. Two other concepts that are important for understanding the behaviorist ideas of speech and language development are imitation and practice. For example, a child says mama when his mother starts to pick him up. The mother is delighted to hear the child say this and gives the child hugs and kisses. Mother's affectionate response makes it more likely that the child will say mama again. Semantic cognitive theory by Piaget. It offered another perspective on language acquisition and development. The semantic cognitive theory of language development emphasizes the interrelationship between language learning and cognition. Piaget established that the language plays a huge role in cognitive development, chiefly in the way children use language throughout each stage of cognitive development. Piaget's focus went on child development and the stages children go through to develop and learn. He asserted that children would only be able to fully grasp some concepts within specific developmental stages, due to the fact that certain sections of the brain would only further develop at certain ages. Piaget's pre-operational stage, in which children are able to develop their imagination and think in slightly more abstract ways. They begin to toy with symbols and they'll use words in ways that aren't generally accepted or understood. For example, they may use the word pillow to mean cloth, purely because of the few shared characteristics between the two objects. Social pragmatic theory. Vygotsky developed a theory of social cultural development. It's referred to as a constructivist perspective and describes the concept of development through construction of thought and meaning. Vygotsky proposed that knowledge is a construction of meaning unique to the individual. How a person grew up will affect how they think and what they will learn. He emphasizes the importance of others in our development, like social interaction and guided learning. Vygotsky postulated that language develops similarly. Regional dialects are a perfect example. Do you call soft drinks in a can soda, pop, or everything is simply Coke? This perspective of language development is first seen in infant caregiver interactions, in which the caregiver responds to an infant's sounds and gestures. The prerequisites for the social pragmatic theories are the infant must have a caregiver in close proximity to see, hear, or touch. 2. The caregiver must meet the infant's basic physical needs such as food, warmth, and exploring the environment. Third, the infant must develop an attachment to the caregiver. Number 4, the infant and caregiver must be able to attend the same objects or actions simultaneously. Number 5, the infant and the caregiver engage in turn talking in both verbal and nonverbal behaviors. Vygotsky also focused on the development of social speech, private speech, and inner speech. Social speech is the language we use with others. Private speech, talking to ourselves, is not meant to communicate with others. This happens around the age of 3. Inner speech only really begins to appear around the age of 6 or 7, with the private speech being internalized. Children who use inner speech stage begin to internalize language and meaning. As Vygotsky says, begin thinking in pure meaning. Our relationship with language becomes increasingly more sophisticated and goes beyond the meaning of the words and into the feelings or ideas the word elicit.